The sun burns relentlessly over an endless sea of golden sand, where the wind whispers secrets buried for centuries. A small team of treasure hunters pushes forward, guided by an ancient map said to lead to a forgotten chamber filled with unimaginable wealth. Their equipment struggles against the harsh desert conditions, but greed and curiosity drive them deeper into the unknown. After days of searching, they finally uncover what appears to be a buried entrance, stone steps descending into darkness, untouched by time. As they enter the chamber, the air turns heavy and still. Their flashlights reveal walls covered in strange carvings, depicting rituals, warnings, and figures that seem almost alive in the flickering light. At the center lies the treasure, piles of gold, jeweled artifacts, and relics of a lost civilization. It's more than they ever imagined. But something feels wrong. The silence is too deep, the air too cold. One of the team members brushes it off and reaches for a golden statue, triggering a low rumble beneath their feet. Soon after, things begin to change. Equipment starts malfunctioning without explanation. One explorer claims he hears voices echoing through the tunnels, calling his name. Another swears the carvings on the walls are shifting when no one is looking. Tension grows as fear creeps into their minds, but the lure of the treasure keeps them from leaving. They convince themselves it's just stress, just the pressure of being deep underground. But the accidents begin, small at first, then increasingly violent. A rope snaps without warning, nearly sending a man into a deep pit. A lantern shatters, plunging part of the chamber into darkness. Then, one of them disappears. No sound, no trace, just gone. Panic sets in as the remaining team members realize they may not be alone. The chamber feels alive, watching, waiting. The carvings now seem less like art and more like a warning they failed to understand. As fear takes hold, the group turns on each other, accusing, shouting, desperate to escape. But the path they entered seems different now, as if the desert itself is trying to seal them inside. The treasure that once sparkled with promise now feels like a curse tightening its grip. Each step they take deeper into the chamber feels like a step closer to something ancient and unforgiving. Through it all, Danny Trejo pieces together the truth behind the legend. This wasn't just a burial site, it was a prison, designed to protect the world from whatever lies within. The gold was never meant to be taken, it was bait, a test of human greed. Those who sought it were never meant to leave. And as the desert wind howls above, it becomes clear that some discoveries are not meant to be made, and some treasures demand a deadly price. Night falls heavy over the forgotten estate, where the silhouette of a once grand mansion looms against a storm-dark sky. Its windows are shattered, its walls cracked and peeling, yet something about it feels watchful. A group of urban explorers approaches cautiously, their cameras ready, drawn by rumors that no one who enters ever leaves unchanged. The air grows colder as they step through the rusted gates, the world outside fading into silence behind them. Inside, the mansion feels frozen in time. Dust blankets antique furniture, faded portraits stare from the walls, and a grand staircase creaks under the slightest weight. Their footsteps echo unnaturally loud, as if the house itself is listening. One of them points out that despite years of abandonment, certain objects seem disturbed. A chair slightly pulled back. A door left half open. None of it makes sense, but they push forward, documenting every detail. As they move deeper, the atmosphere begins to shift. A door slams shut somewhere. Upstairs, though no one is there. Their cameras flicker, capturing brief moments of distortion. Shadows that don't match their movements, shapes that vanish when replayed. One explorer laughs it off nervously, but the tension is undeniable. The deeper they go, the more the house seems to respond to their presence. They reach a long hallway lined with old mirrors, many of them cracked or blackened with age. As they pass, one of the explorers stops. He swears his reflection moved a second too late. The others gather, trying to recreate it, but everything appears normal, until a loud bang echoes from the end of the hall. A door that was closed is now wide open, revealing a dark room that none of them remember seeing before. Inside, the air is suffocating. The temperature drops sharply, their breath visible in the dim light. Scratches cover the walls, deep and chaotic, as if someone, or something, tried to claw their way out. One of the explorers suddenly freezes, staring into a corner. He whispers that someone is standing there. The others see nothing, but his fear is real. Moments later, he screams and bolts out of the room, refusing to go back inside. Panic spreads quickly. Footsteps echo above them, even though they're certain no one else is there. Doors begin to shut on their own, trapping them in different parts of the house. One member pounds on a locked door, shouting for help, while another captures a fleeting figure at the end of the hallway, tall, still, and watching. When they review the footage, the figure is gone, but the feeling of being watched only grows stronger. As the group struggles to find their way out, Danny Trejo uncovers the mansion's tragic history. Years ago, a family lived here, their lives unraveling in isolation and paranoia. Reports of strange behavior, violent outbursts, and unexplained deaths were buried over time, dismissed as madness. But what if it wasn't madness at all? What if the house itself held something that fed on fear, growing stronger with every soul trapped inside? Back in the present, the explorers finally reach the front door, but it won't open. The same door they entered now feels like a barrier. The house creaks and groans as if alive, resisting their escape. Windows refuse to break, hallways seem to shift, and the sense of being hunted becomes overwhelming. In a final desperate push, they force their way out, stumbling into the cold night air, shaken and silent. But as they review their footage later, one detail stands out: a figure visible behind them as they exited, standing just inside the doorway. It wasn't there before. And as Danny Trejo reflects on the evidence, one question lingers in the darkness: did they really leave the house behind, or did something follow them out? Far out in the open ocean, where the horizon stretches endlessly and the water hides more than it reveals, a research vessel drifts above a site long marked on forgotten maps. The coordinates point to a shipwreck that officially doesn't exist. No records, no distress signal, no trace in maritime history. Yet whispers among deep-sea explorers speak of a vessel that vanished under mysterious circumstances, carrying cargo too dangerous to be acknowledged. Drawn by these rumors, a team of divers prepares to descend into the cold, silent depths. As they sink beneath the surface, sunlight fades into darkness, replaced by the eerie glow of their equipment. The pressure builds with every meter, and the ocean around them becomes an endless void. Then, slowly, the shape of the wreck emerges, massive, rusted, and disturbingly intact. It rests at an unnatural angle, as if it was placed there rather than sunk. The divers circle it cautiously, noticing that parts of the hull are marked with strange symbols, unlike anything used in modern shipping. They find an entry point and slip inside. The interior is preserved in a haunting stillness. Crates remain stacked, corridors untouched, and yet there's no sign of a crew. No bones, no personal belongings, just emptiness. One diver points out that it feels wrong, like the ship was abandoned in an instant. Their lights sweep across the walls, revealing more of the same strange markings, repeated over and over as if they served as warnings, or containment seals. As they venture deeper, their instruments begin to glitch. Oxygen readings fluctuate. Communication with the surface becomes distorted, voices breaking into static. Then comes the sound. A low, distant hum that seems to vibrate through the metal walls. At first, they assume it's the ship settling under pressure, but the sound grows louder, more rhythmic, almost alive. One diver insists it's coming from below, from a sealed section of the vessel. They locate a heavy door, partially welded shut, as if someone tried to keep it closed forever. Against their better judgment, they force it open. Inside, the chamber is unlike the rest of the ship. The walls are lined with unfamiliar technology, devices corroded but still faintly glowing. At the center lies a container, cracked open, its contents long gone. Whatever was inside, it wasn't meant to be released. Suddenly, one diver jerks back, claiming something brushed past him. The others see nothing, but the water around them seems to shift unnaturally, as if disturbed by an unseen presence. Their lights flicker violently, and the humming turns into a piercing resonance that sends waves of panic through the team. One of them begins to breathe rapidly, his voice trembling as he insists something is moving in the shadows beyond their reach. The situation spirals as another diver is suddenly pulled backward into darkness. His tether goes slack, his light disappearing in an instant. The remaining team scrambles to retreat, their movements frantic as they try to navigate back through the narrow corridors. But the ship no longer feels still. It creaks, groans, almost reacting to their escape, as if something within it has awakened. Back on the surface, alarms blare as contact is lost with one of the divers. The crew struggles to maintain communication, but all they receive is distorted audio, fragments of screams, the same unnatural hum, and a final, chilling silence. The ocean above remains calm, betraying nothing of the chaos below. As Danny Trejo pieces together the mystery, a disturbing possibility emerges. This ship may have been part of a classified operation, transporting something not fully understood, something that couldn't be controlled. The symbols weren't decorations, they were warnings. The sealed chamber wasn't storage, it was a prison. And whatever escaped may still be down there, moving silently through the depths, waiting. In the end, the wreck is marked as too dangerous to explore again, its location quietly removed from official charts. But the ocean keeps its secrets well. And somewhere in that crushing darkness, far beyond the reach of light, something stirs, unseen, unknown, and no longer contained. High in a remote mountain range, far from any marked trail, there exists a place the locals refuse to name. They speak of it only in hushed tones, warning outsiders to stay away from a cave hidden deep within the jagged cliffs. According to legend, anyone who enters does not return the same, if they return at all. Despite the warnings, a team of researchers sets out to uncover the truth, driven by reports of a chilling discovery, a cave filled with human bones arranged in patterns no one can explain. The journey itself is punishing. Narrow paths, freezing winds, and an overwhelming sense of isolation follow them. As they climb higher into the mountains, the air grows thinner, and the silence becomes almost unnatural, broken only by the sound of their own breathing. When they finally locate the cave entrance, it appears ordinary at first glance, dark, still, and uninviting. But as they step closer, an uneasy feeling settles over the group, as if they're being watched from within the darkness. Inside, the temperature drops instantly. Their lights cut through the blackness, revealing a sight that stops them in their tracks. Bones, hundreds, maybe thousands, line the ground and walls, arranged in deliberate formations. Skulls are stacked in symmetrical patterns, long bones form strange symbols, and entire skeletons are positioned as if frozen mid-movement. It's not random. It's designed. And whatever created it had a purpose far beyond burial. As they move deeper into the cave, they begin documenting everything, trying to make sense of the arrangement. One researcher suggests it could be an ancient ritual site, while another believes it might be the work of a long-lost civilization with unknown practices. But the deeper they go, the harder it becomes to hold on to logic. The formations grow more complex, more disturbing, almost as if they tell a story, one that no one can fully understand. Then the first signs of trouble appear. One team member complains of dizziness, another of a ringing in their ears. Their equipment starts malfunctioning, recording static instead of video, capturing strange distortions in the darkness. Shadows seem to move just beyond the reach of their lights, always there, but never fully visible. The cave feels alive, not in a physical sense, but in a way that presses against their minds. Soon, paranoia takes hold. One researcher becomes convinced that the bones are shifting positions when they're not looking. Another insists they hear whispers echoing through the cave, calling them deeper. Arguments break out, fear turning into suspicion. They begin to lose track of time, unsure how long they've been inside. Minutes feel like hours, and the exit seems farther away with every step. At the heart of the cave, they discover a massive chamber unlike anything they've seen before. In the center lies a circular arrangement of skeletons, all facing inward toward a single point. The ground beneath them is marked with symbols carved deep into the stone, symbols that match the patterns formed by the bones. It feels like the center of something, an ancient ritual, or perhaps something far more dangerous. One of the researchers suddenly collapses, trembling, his eyes wide with terror. He begins describing visions, figures moving in the darkness, watching, waiting. He claims the cave is not just a place, but a gateway, and the bones are not remains, they are offerings. Panic spreads as the others realize that whatever happened here may not be over. As they attempt to leave, the cave seems to resist them. Paths they remember twist into unfamiliar directions, and markers they placed to guide their way out have vanished. The whispers grow louder, the shadows more aggressive, pressing closer with every passing moment. It becomes a desperate race to escape before they lose themselves completely. Through careful investigation, Danny Trejo uncovers fragments of the cave's past. Ancient accounts speak of rituals meant to communicate with forces beyond human understanding, rituals that required sacrifice, not just of life, but of sanity. The cave wasn't just a site of death, it was a place of connection, where something unseen was invited in. In the end, only part of the team makes it back out, shaken and forever changed. The survivors refuse to speak in detail about what they experienced, their memories fragmented and filled with fear. The cave remains where it is, hidden in the mountains, untouched by modern understanding. And as the wind howls through the peaks above, one thought lingers. Some doors are never meant to be opened, and some places are not meant for the living.